I am very excited about this. I have a White Claw because I did just finish work. I usually try to be classier and have wine or something talking about mysteries, but I don't have that today. So, for all my Ohio pals, this takes place in Circleville, Ohio. So it's a real small town, just like I think south of Columbus. And I don't know, it seems like a lot of other people knew about it, but I didn't, and it's just been boggling my mind. So we're going to dive in here. Like I said, it takes place in Circleville, and this blew my mind too. It happened over a span of like almost 30 years, so between 1976 and like the late 90s. But I saw a few things saying that some letters popped up in like 2003 or something, which is just bizarre. So all the letters were, or at least most of them, postmarked from Columbus, but didn't have like a legit address because they're at least smart enough not to do that. And they were really creepy because each letter detailed little bits of their personal lives. And they're all kind of threatening, at least vaguely threatening. There was one main target. So this story centers around Mary, I think Gillespie is how you pronounce her last name. But that's really what it centers around. Although she is not the only one who got letters. I'm telling you, this person sent thousands of letters to people throughout Pickaway County, throughout Circleville. And it all had like the weird gossip, private things, that this person shouldn't know. So this town was kind of terrorized there for about 30 years almost. Although, like I said, the main target really was Mary. So we first have to look into who is Mary. Why is she being targeted? What's the deal here? So she was a bus driver in Circleville. So, she was a mom, she was married, drove the school bus, what you picture like your average American, your average Ohioan. I know she had at least one daughter. I don't know how many children she had, but we have to know that she at least has one kid. So what these letters do for Mary, they start getting sent to her first, and they are accusing her of having an affair. I hope you all can hear me good. But they're accusing her of having an affair with the superintendent of the school that she worked for. His name's Gordon Massey. You're going to hear his name again for sure. So that's really what their fixation was on, which was bizarre to me. So the writer kept saying like, "Oh, I'm keeping an eye on you at your home. I know you have a husband. I know you have kids. I know when you leave. I know when you come back. I know all this stuff about you. You need to come clean about this affair." I'm going to start telling people. And it kind of started amplifying from there. It's like, I gave you some time. You need to say something now. I'm going to tell the TV stations, CBS. I'm going to tell, the radio. I'm going to erect billboards. Like, I don't know. They were really obsessed with this woman's affair. Which to me, like, at first I thought, like, really, like, why would the news report on this, like, bus driver's affair on her husband? But it's like, oh, it's superintendent of the school, and I believe he was married at the time. So that would be pretty salacious. I mean, yeah. So they were kind of threatening to blow it up. And Mary kept the threats at first a secret. She wasn't telling her husband. She wasn't telling anybody else. She just kind of, like, would hide them. Until eventually her husband, Ron, started getting threatening messages too. And his messages really went haywire. I am going to pause for a second just so I can see if anyone else is tuning in. If there's anyone else watching, please get in the chat. I really want to have a convo about this. Sorry, I know you're seeing this now. That is distracting. So, let's get back into this. So, Ron's letters. Before we get into Ron's letters, I forgot. I actually have snippets here of the letters sent to Mary. And so you can see the distinctive writing here. It's like the real, like, block writing. I'm assuming that's to kind of hide their own handwriting, unless they just write real weird. I don't know. But all these letters were written like this. Like this one says, "Don't lie when questioned about knowing him. I know where you live. I've been observing your house." And then this one's like, I can't even read this one. They're going to inform the school board. Oh yeah, this is one about CBS and posters and billboards and all that nonsense. So, like I said, Ron gets his first letter, and it kind of goes from 0 to 100. And it kind of, this kind of irritates me because, like, this is a poor guy getting cheated on. Why is this guy being so aggressive towards poor Ron, So the letter that Ron gets says, "We must inform you that your wife is having an affair with Mr. Massey. She has chased him until he caught her." Oh, I don't know what that means. That's weird. I don't remember that part. "Eliminate them both before they eliminate you. Remember, we know where you work and know your red and white truck. No one can help you. Think of your children and their future. Call the school board and report the truth after you finish your investigation. Notify the school board immediately. And again, your life is in danger." Like, why is the person who's getting cheated on, why is their life in danger? Why is it so important to this person that these people go to the school board? I don't understand then. If they have all this evidence, they know it's happening, why don't they go to the school board? I don't understand. I really do not understand. But they're threatening poor Ron, who's finding out that his wife may be cheating on him. Although Mary says there's no affair. So yeah, initially Mary is swearing up and down, no, this isn't legit. I don't know why they're saying these things, but either way, we don't want these kind of rumors swirling. So they kind of kept it hush hush. Some of the rumors that I found were that the superintendent Massey would like meet up on her, like she'd go on this girls trip and he would like be there, like he would go and meet up with her there, which to me just sounds like more of an annoyance. And then there's like another spot that they met. There was like a few miles out of town. I think it was near her, like Mary's hometown or something like that. But they would find like a meetup spot or something like that. And then later, they both admitted, like years later, they admitted they were having an affair, but it didn't start until, the superintendent got divorced and after the letters started. So at first the letters were false and all of this, but that sounds so dumb to me. Like the worst way for a relationship to start. It's like, oh, they're accusing us of this. Let's just do it. They've got the right idea. So yeah, I don't know. That's like the sloppiest way to cover your tracks. Whatever. At that point, if you're just going to admit it, like admit it, just go in. So at this point, it's kind of getting scary. The family starts getting involved. So Ron and Mary go to Ron's sister Karen and her husband Paul Freshore. I'll pick a pronunciation at some point. But so they go to them and they're like, "Hey, this is happening. We're kind of freaking out." Mary thinks maybe it's this guy that she works with. His name is David Longberry. Remember, you need to remember all of these names, actually. They are all going to come back here. But she thinks maybe it was David because David had been kind of like creepy towards her. He was doing the old work flirt, but she was work flirting with somebody else. So she rejected this David Longberry fellow. So she thought maybe he was scorned and like trying to ruin her marriage, get back at her, freak her out. Who knows? But she thinks it's this Longberry fella. So Paul, trying to take some action, I guess, basically writes a letter to David and says, "Hey, we're on to you. We know what you're doing. You better knock it off. I'm serious, man." I don't know. He just starts trying to get him to stop. And the letters did stop for a little bit. Like they laid low for a little while and they thought, okay, well maybe we're cool now. But no, the letter writer was just trying to get creative here. And then signs started popping up across town. And I shouldn't laugh because it's actually really gross, like the contents of the sign. But I keep thinking back, he's like, "I'm going to erect billboards." And I'm just assuming that he decided he was going to make his own billboards out of like poster paper or something and tape them to trees. I don't know. It just, again, it seems weird. And I shouldn't laugh because they're weird. They're weird signs. So, are we all following right now? I want to make sure because there's like a lot of names and this gets really into the weeds. I'm going to assume yes, but again, chime in here, please. Now, again, let's talk about these weird signs. So, it's real gross because a lot of these signs accuse the superintendent, Massey, of having like relations, like some kind of affair with Mary's daughter. And her daughter is only 12 years old. So this is really disturbing for pretty much like just everyone, you know, like any, I think, townsperson driving by, for Gordon, for Mary, for the poor daughter, for Ron, like literally everyone involved. This is just disturbing. And like I said, so this especially made Ron really upset and like sick and just peeved. Okay, Swifty 4014 or 4011. I promise I haven't even had half this drink yet. Where are you confused? I can do a quick recap here because I'm not sure where you tuned in. Quick recap up until this point to try and sum it up. This person in Circleville for like 30 years is sending out these weird letters to people. Started with this and mainly focused on this woman, Mary. She's a bus driver. So the letter writer's like sending these notes to Mary saying, hey, I know you're having an affair. If you don't tell the school board, there's gonna be hell to pay. I don't know. So she's like hiding it from her husband or everyone because she doesn't want to like get these rumors started. So eventually, since she's not doing anything, her husband Ron gets some letters, and this one jumps up. He's like, hey, your wife's having an affair, and by the way, if you don't say something, I'm gonna kill you. So they're all freaking out. They go to their family. Their Ron's brother-in-law writes a letter to the guy who they think it probably is, and they're like, hey dude, cut it out. So he does cut it out, and then he brings billboards or posters on the side of the road saying gross things. So I hope that clears it up. That's probably a better summary than what I've done so far. So please let me know if that makes more sense. So fast forwarding to where we are now with these signs, these billboards, saying these awful things about the superintendent having an affair with this 12-year-old girl. So Ron, the dad, the husband, heads out every morning basically to rip these signs down so no one else has to see it, especially so his daughter doesn't have to see it, going to school every day. Like, so he's getting up in the morning and he's doing this. They can't get it to stop. So okay, here's where things get really interesting. So okay, great. I'm glad that helped. So because we got to know what's happening here. This is where things really start to spiral. So on August 17th, 1977, Ron gets this real weird phone call, right? And he just gets like pissed off. No one knows exactly what was said. We just don't know. But, you know, he's peeved. He leaves home. He grabs his gun. He doesn't say a word out the door. So what people think is that on that phone call, he figured out who this letter writer actually was. And he was going to go confront them, settle things once and for all, and I don't know, just get it done, essentially. So hours later, sadly, they find his car wrapped around a tree. He gets in this awful car accident and he was found dead. So at first, the sheriff actually believed the crash could have been some kind of foul play. He later denied that he said that, but there are so many reports that have said that he was investigating it as such, especially because I saw that he had brought in some kind of suspect in it, and they did like a polygraph test, and they did some stuff, and they ended up dismissing him. And then he decided, oh, well, this was accidental. And then he said that Ron had a blood alcohol level of 1.5 times the legal limit. So they decided he was driving drunk, it was an accident, he died, you know, this is what happened. But his family and his friends were really confused because Ron is the type who, you know, he doesn't drink. And not only does he not really drink, he if ever, has ever gotten like actually drunk. So if he does drink, it's like a casual thing. So, you know, that just strikes them as super odd, especially because from what I read, it seems to be like this was in the middle of the day. And the other weird part of the scene is that they found Ron's gun, and it shows that he fired once. So that, you know, if he was just driving drunk and crashed, why would he have fired the gun? And also, they were never able to find like the shell, I don't believe. Like they weren't able to find, the remnants. So the whole crash is super weird. But the sheriff decided, It was an accident. So that's where that landed. Hey! Rudick Squirrel! Thank you for tuning in. Thank you all for tuning in and for saying words to me because I want to chat about this. I don't want to just talk at you guys, which is so easy to do because there's so much to say. So please, if you get confused, if you have a point you want to make, please let me know, because I can't decide how. You'll see at the end of this, but usually I have an inkling of where I think this is going to go, or like what I think the conclusion is, and I have literally no idea. It's insane. So, getting back into this, once Ron's death is declared an accident by the sheriff, for some reason this surprised me too. Like, the letter writer got real peeved. Like, this really made them mad. They're like, the sheriff is covering something up. You know, we need to investigate. And this is when they really started sending letters, like, to everyone. They're like, you know, just writing all this crazy stuff about how the sheriff is covering up what happened. This wasn't an accident. We need a more thorough investigation. Just, like, begging for all of this stuff. And yet, like, the one report I said, it was literally thousands that were sent throughout the county. And it was enough to, like, fill an entire storeroom in the Circleville police station, which, I mean, I guess it's a small town. But just so many letters, so much time to write all of that. And Mary herself, you would think, you know, at a certain point, after her husband died, yay, Swifty, following. I won you over. I like that. Yay, thank you for the follow. So, Mary received a total of 39 letters. After her husband died, they just kept coming from 1977 to 1983. So she got, like I said, almost 40 letters and thousands throughout the county. So, that's not even the end of it. This is where things really get extra spicy. I'm really blowing through this, and this is like too much for me to go too fast here. But I'm like real jazzed up about it. So, here's where the stuff gets extra weird. In February of 1983, signs start popping up again. His weird, like, his billboards that he's trying to put up there. I don't know if that's actually what he's calling a billboard, but I just like to imagine that, because this person just seems, obviously something's not right, right? So, the signs are popping up along Mary's bus route, and again, they're saying, like, the gross stuff about Massey having this affair with her daughter. So, just gross. So, she's, you know, of course she gets angry, she gets disgusted, so she pulls over in her bus the one day for one of the signs, and she runs over to try and rip the sign down, but she notices that this sign is real weird. So it has like a piece of twine hanging from the bottom. So she's kind of investigating it, and she sees that there's like a little crappy makeshift box that's there. So she sees this the sign and the weird mechanism, and she just decides to rip the whole thing off and take the whole thing with her. So she takes it to the bus, and she starts like fiddling with it, you know. It's like kind of glued together, so she's like tearing it apart, and she gets the box open, and she sees that inside there's like two big blocks of styrofoam, and in between the styrofoam is a gun. So the twine is attached to the trigger of the gun. And so I guess the idea was, like, she was supposed to pull the trigger, the twine, it would trigger the gun and shoot her. Which to me is a real roundabout way of killing someone, I guess. Like, I don't understand the theatrics of it, especially if you're aiming at targeting one specific person. Like, I mean, I know the sign is targeting her daughter, but really, couldn't that be anyone who sees that and is like, this is gross, let's get rid of this? I don't know, just weird strategy, right? So, she actually, what to me is kind of weird, she takes it home for a little bit. She doesn't immediately go to the police station, she just takes it home. And after a few hours, she decides to take it to the police station. And they are able to see on the side of the gun, there's the serial number. It's like kind of worn off, but they make it out. And, I mean, you can probably already see it on the screen. They figure out it belongs to none other than Paul Flashhour. Who is that again? That is her dead husband's brother-in-law. So he was one of the first people who knew about the letters in the first place. He's the one who wrote a letter to the person they thought was a letter writer, telling him to buzz off. So, shocking development here. So they figure out this is his gun. So immediately they take Paul into, oh yeah, this is Paul. This is like the main picture I was able to find, I guess probably because, he was implicated in this incident. So this is our buddy Paul. Okay, let's see. As far as the trying to pull the trigger would be a way to avoid fingerprints and or getting gunshot residue on your skin or clothes. Swifty, you know what? I appreciate that, but now I'm a little scared of you. But I also like where your brain is at, so it's a mix of both. Still just very theatrical. I would say genius, but it did not work, so I guess it is not that genius. But they were thinking. So, that's Paul. But don't get all over Paul just yet. The trial gets real weird. So, they take him in for questioning. They do all this stuff. They end up charging him with the crime. And he really is set up from the beginning because everyone in this town has been plagued by these letters. They've all been affected. Makes it look like an accident, too. I mean, I suppose, but... Yeah, I mean, I guess you can't really say it's an accident if someone put a gun there, and it's clearly a contraption. But I don't know. I mean, it definitely make it less traceable, except for the fact that they found the serial number on the gun. But here's where, okay, I'm just going to go ahead and say I'm not convinced it's Paul, and a lot of other people aren't either. Just look at this trial. It's bananas. So, on August 24th, 1983, this is when the trial gets started. So, Paul pleads not guilty. He maintains his innocence, forever, right? So, he admitted the gun was his. He's like, yeah, that's my gun. I lost it a long time ago. I know it sounds sketch, but that's the truth. I didn't know where it was. So, here it is, I guess. Kyle Diber! Thank you for following me! I hope you do not regret it. Things are getting weird. So, yeah, he admitted the gun was his. Said I lost it. I don't know. So, not a great defense there. But the thing is, no one's able to connect him to the letters. But the letters are being used as evidence. These thousands of letters. And again, at this point, it's one of those cases where the whole case has so much notoriety. Everyone was impacted by this. It happened for, decades. The media basically already is, kind of implicating Paul in the letters. So people kind of already have it up in their head. But there's never been any evidence to connect him to the crazy letters. So, in fact, this is what's really messed up. The sheriff admitted in court when they took him in to do, the handwriting test. What they did was they instructed him on how to do it. So, remember, I might even go back to show you the letters. I'm going to do that. Sorry, I'm going to click a lot. Where is it? Here we go. So you see, remember how distinct the letter is? It's the block writing. So they basically told him to do that. And one of the things I saw said they even showed him, this is what it's supposed to be. Try to copy it to the best of your ability. So, what? That's not how handwriting tests work. I mean, I get that the person was writing distinctly, so they probably wanted to see, let's see how closely he writes to this. But very, very bizarre and not what you're supposed to do. So, the sheriff admits that. He's like, yeah, this is a real sketchy way that we did things here. He also confirmed that they were able to find no evidence, no tools, no materials, nothing. Nothing was found at Paul's home to connect him to the box either. So there's nothing, he had no materials to build the booby trap at his garage or at his home, and they found like no ammunition for the gun anywhere either. So at Paul's house, they found nothing. Really, they have no evidence on Paul besides the fact that his gun was used. And this is the key thing here that really is tripping me up. And we're going to have to talk about this later too, just briefly. Let me see. So witnesses say, and I know specifically it was like one bus driver who goes by before Mary does. They saw a man with like sandy blonde hair and this like yellow Chevy El Camino right like outside where the sign showed up hours later, just like very shortly before. So, you know, it was real suspicious. Like the guy was obviously trying not to show attention to himself. One thing said he was like kind of pretending like maybe he was going to the bathroom, which I feel like to me would be drawing attention to yourself. Very weird, but so yeah, there's this guy who was there very shortly before the sign appeared, and the police were told and never followed up on it. So there is this huge lead, and they were just like, I guess in their heads, they probably thought the evidence was so strong against Paul. Like, they thought, Paul's gun, they have a relationship. Like, they probably didn't even think to entertain that lead, but they never did. And Paul had an airtight alibi. I couldn't find out what it was, but everything said, like, he had an alibi, a solid one for the whole time, like, this whole incident happened. So the only thing they have on Paul is this gun. So, oh yeah, I wanted to clip this article too. I found this, I want to say it was like Cincinnati? I don't know. But an old newspaper from the opening arguments from it. I just think it's really interesting to see the coverage. But yeah, just wanted to show that. Now, Paul is found guilty. Sorry, I missed the build up there. But they found Paul guilty. All it took was the gun with his serial number on it. So, yeah, this is just, it's nuts. So, they find him guilty, right? And he's convicted of attempted murder, and he's sentenced to 7 to 25 years in jail. So, you know, that's not where this story ends. You'd think, okay, so you'd think, okay, they got him, the letters will stop, even if, okay, you know, it's not him, or the letter writer's still out there, you'd think they would just, like, stop, because it's like, oh, look, someone else got put away for their crime. The affair, everyone knows about the affair now. Like, I can't think of anything else they would want, right? I don't know. If their goal is to expose and extort these people, they've already dragged them through the mud. This poor woman's husband is dead. You know, everyone knows about the affair. This guy's in jail. Game over, right? No. Game not so over. Because the letters don't stop. In fact, Paul gets a letter while he's in jail. And it says, oh, Sam, I mistyped, but it says, shame how things work out. But better you than me. The sheriff says you did it, but we know better, don't we? I don't know if it's supposed to rhyme. I didn't read it like that until just now. No other letters were poems, but this is ominous. Could you imagine? So say Paul, we don't know, but say Paul is innocent and you just get this taunting letter while you're in jail. Oh my God. It's not about the resolution, it's about enjoying the game at that point. Yeah, like, it's insane. This is, to me, I feel like one of the most, I shouldn't say the most twisted, because there's some real twisted stories out there, but just like, it's purely a mental thing, because it's not like there's a serial killing situation here. We don't even know if Ron was murdered or if Ron's situation was an accident. There might not be any murder involved in here, but it's just the weird decades-long mental torment that is going on here is just absolutely insane. Yeah, and so, okay, you know what? I think the writer does want some notoriety here, because obviously they could have just let it be, but they're taunting Paul here. They keep writing other letters. They were really, but the thing that triggered it for me was that when they ruled the death accidental, they got real peeved. So to me, that's where I think it probably was their fault, because otherwise, why would they be that upset? It's like it almost felt like they wanted credit for it. It's like, oh, they need to look into it more. It wasn't an accident. Like, they were so upset that their work would be considered an accident. But the thing is, we don't know that, and I have no idea what the motivation is. I can't say. But that's like, when you hear those things, I feel like that's where your brain first goes. So the writer starts taunting Paul in jail. And they continue, Kate Pals, thank you for following. I keep feeling bad for people joining in the middle of this nonsense. If anyone does at some point, I can very quickly do a very quick recap if anyone wants it. If any of you need one, let me know in the chat, and I can do that before we get into the nitty gritty. I am like kind of wrapping up ish here, so it might not be a terrible time. But yes, let me know. So, again, letters can't stop, won't stop. They're not just going to Paul. They are being sent to townspeople too. So what they're thinking is, okay, we've got Paul in jail. These letters are still coming out. Like, he thinks he's smuggling them out. He thinks that he's got someone helping him get the letters out while he's still in jail. So to try and ease people's fears, they shove Paul in solitary confinement. I shouldn't laugh. It's just like, if this guy is innocent, and again, I feel like I have to just keep saying this, but like, we don't know. If he's innocent, could you imagine, like, getting put in solitary? Like, you're already in jail and you get put in solitary confinement because of like what someone else is doing. Wow. But that's what's weird is he's in solitary confinement and the letters are still going out, and people are saying, like, experts, all of them, like, there's literally no way. They can't think of any possible way Paul himself would be able to smuggle anything out of solitary confinement. So, Paul, this whole time, like, I feel like in my head, I'm picturing him kind of going mad, because if he's innocent, wouldn't you? But otherwise, he could just be crazy, or he could just be, committing to the bit, committing real hard. Were they not monitoring his mail? That's usually a common practice. I didn't see that at all. Oh, yeah, duh. Because they were, I'm assuming they were sending it from elsewhere. It was postmarked Columbus, but there was no, like, return address. So I'm assuming he was probably just dropping it off in, like, mailboxes and, like, obviously not getting anything in return. So, or, like, are you talking about from the jail? That's the thing. I didn't hear anything about them monitoring any of his mail. But again, they haven't been able to find any evidence tracing him to the letters. At this point, they're just, like, kind of assuming it's him. So they figure out, okay, these letters are still going out while he is in solitary confinement. So he tries for parole. He's denied in 1988. He's, like, desperate at this point. He's like, look, I'll do polygraph tests. Whatever you need me to do, like, I'll do it. So he submits to 3 polygraph tests, and he passes them. Flying colors. He's in. He's still denied parole in 1993. So finally, the next year, after more than 10 and a half years, he spends behind bars. He is finally released from jail. Let me see. Once again, could be blinders on it. Yeah, God, this is just so bizarre to me, this whole story. So, oh man, I really am wrapping up. I sped through that. So he's let out. But if it's not Paul, who could it be? There are, like, a ton of theories. So one of the big ones is that it wasn't just one letter writer. I don't know who would be teaming up. Some people thought, I'll skip around a little bit. Some people thought it was Mary. Maybe Mary and Massey, like, teamed up together or something. And at first, I was kind of thinking, like, what would Mary's motive be? I really don't exactly understand why she would torment, like, all of these people. And I still, I guess, don't really understand. But what people were saying was they thought maybe it was her, or she was at least in on it, because, like, the whole weird booby trap thing, they just thought was too bizarre. Like, she knew to go over to that one and it didn't actually go off, and like the whole fanfare of it was just strange in itself. Like if someone wanted somebody killed, wouldn't they just go do it, or like hire someone? Like there are just so many more not weird ways to do it, I guess. So some people thought maybe it was Mary. I genuinely don't think so. That's the one that I for sure don't really feel like. But David Longberry, if you missed the beginning, David is a co-worker of Mary. She was a bus driver at the school, and so was David. Basically, he had been like kind of creeping on her, just being a little weird, and like she just kept like turning him down on dates. Again, she apparently was being flirty with another school worker, so that really wasn't working out. So they thought maybe he was getting back at her. But this is the one that's really interesting to me. Karen Sorick. Karen was Ron's sister. So I didn't see this until later on, but apparently Karen was caught having an affair on Paul. So Paul's the one, obviously, who spent 10.5 years in jail. So this is his ex-wife. She was apparently caught having an affair. They divorced. She lost everything in the divorce. Like, she lost custody of the kids. She lost the house. Like, I mean, back then, it's kind of wild to me she lost her kids. So she really kind of, like, there must have been something else going on there. Because, I mean, we all kind of know a lot of times the court systems favor the mothers. And especially, I feel like, back then, I don't know what year they divorced, but regardless. So she was upset. She apparently then began staying in like a trailer or something in the back of Mary's yard. And she hated Paul at this point. And she just told Mary that he was the letter writer. He did this. So what stuck out to me, there was like a journalist who followed this very, very, very closely. Like he did a deep investigation of this. And one thing he had said, I mean, you can kind of see the quote, but it's like, in my 22 years as a journalist and investigator, I don't think I ever met an individual so consumed with such irrational hatred for another and a willingness to say anything, no matter how provably false, to defame him. So that quote really stuck out to me, and that El Camino, the car that was never followed up on, Karen's brother had a car just like that, and he had sandy blonde hair, which let me go back to the picture. We know our boy Paul. Does he look like he has sandy blonde hair to you? No. I mean, the guy really could have been there for anything, and maybe it has nothing to do with it. But with that connection, it would have been worth looking into. So I wanted to go through this with you guys because I haven't actually really done it. It might not be interesting, so we can stop if it's not. Paul got really jazzed up. I shouldn't. Of course he did. If he's innocent, or if he's not, then he's really going all in on it. He wrote a 176-page letter to the FBI going into every detail about this case, details about everyone who could have been involved, and like he really put a lot of the blame on the sheriff. He kind of went into this conspiracy theory that the sheriff was kind of like covering up crime, like dusting a lot of things under the rug, because he was like trying to, I don't know if it's get reelected. He was trying to get like initiated into this prestigious group or something. So he was like always trying to hide a lot of the crime levels. If the crime levels were like real high, what he expected them to be, then he would have never gotten in. So he, which I mean, I could kind of theoretically see, like, so say Ron was actually killed. Maybe he was like, oh no, it's an accident, because he didn't want to make it seem like the crime rates were high, and maybe he just wanted to get an end to this letter thing, so he followed the one solid lead he had, although that doesn't justify how the rest of the proceedings went. But what's crazy is this long letter. He posted it on like a WordPress site, and he like updated the whole site like throughout his life until he died in 2012. But he was like updating that regularly. It's like all he could focus on the rest of his life, which is really sad. But is this an additional brother, or deferring to Ron himself? Oh, are you talking about, yeah, I must have been an additional brother. Which is weird because nobody phrased it that way. I feel so stupid. But yeah, I didn't make that connection because none of them ever said it was like Ron and Karen's brother. They just said it was Karen's brother. I mean, I guess it could be like an additional brother-in-law, or maybe it was like, yeah, I don't know. That's a great question. Now I need to research that. That's such a basic thing, too, that I didn't even get into. But that is a good question, Swifty. Because that would be even more wild if the two siblings, if that even were to be the case, if the two siblings had perhaps gotten together against that family for some reason. But I do have up, this is the actual PDF that Paul has. And I kind of want to, let me try this. Because I want to know if there's anything else interesting on the WordPress site. I wonder if it's just the letters. Oh, the letters themselves. Because yeah, I haven't dug around in here. I just like was going through like the full story. This is the big PDF, the letter that he sent to the FBI. Yeah, he's like, it's just so sad. Yeah, the very, very beginning, he really dives into the sheriff here. Yeah. He was trying to get involved with the national... Oh, yeah, that's what he wanted. He wanted to become the National Sheriff's Association president, according to Paul. So, yeah, this goes on and on and on. Just wild. It kind of is chilling to me just to be here and, like, looking at this. I believe this is the WordPress... I believe this is his WordPress site. But it's kind of chilling, like, to think about someone maintaining this. I guess this is their life's work, their life's... Oh, this isn't working. It's okay. We're like, oh, thank you. Oh, I'm glad that you like the format, the interactive, because that's what... I like talking to people about it. So I'm glad that I'm not the only one. Dang it, I can't bring up these letters. I don't understand why I can't. Wait, oh, this one works. Oh, this is the court. Wow, interesting. Huh. Dang, I wish I would have realized that that's what this is before that. Oh, yeah, so, oh, wow, oh, this is even more chilling. Sorry, it's like I'm realizing this as we go. All the little marks, they have to be, I'm assuming, Paul's additions that he scanned into here by hand, because look at how distinctly he's drawing your attention here with all the arrows down and the underline for the part here that says, but he did not examine the documents to determine if Paul Freshour had written them. So this is like, if you go through and I feel like check all the things with the little X's and the stars and the underlines, you can really kind of get a look into what Paul's brain was doing at that time. Wow. This is something I feel like I'm going to go through on my own even. Just how insane is that? So that's, I guess, the story. I wish I could say even more, but it's wild to me that there's no clear conclusion. But I do want to hear from you all, because I want to know who do you think did it? Do you think it was a team? Part of me does think it was a team. After that long, do you think one person really was doing it? I really was team, like, I don't think once, and I know I sound biased, but I just, looking at the evidence, I can't help but think that Paul was most likely innocent. I did see, when I was looking through some of these blog sites that also, like, wrote about this, I found a couple, like, well, it was really just one comment from somebody who said that he had, like, grew up in that area, and he had family members, and all of them kind of agreed. I guess, like, the consensus in the area was that Paul was guilty. Paul, like, kind of was, like, a conspiracy theorist. He was just, like, a little wonky. But to me, I also feel like that opinion has to be tainted, too, just because watching media coverage or, you know, everything being pointed towards him, you kind of can't help but put that in your brain. But let me see. Part 2 fell up after additional research. Yes. Oh, wait. Oh, I almost forgot about this. And that's so funny. I was, like, almost scared to do this story, even though, I mean, like, no one's going to see this. And at this point, everyone involved is either dead or, like, probably too old to know what the heck Twitch is. But Unsolved Mysteries. Oh, shoot. You might just have to. Yeah, Unsolved Mysteries. Here, I'm going to move it to my big thing because I'm going to get into my email. Unsolved Mysteries did an episode on this. And when they did the episode, they got a letter. They got a letter from the letter writer for doing it. And part of me wants to do a reaction video, like, on Twitch, watching that episode at some point. But that stuff kind of scares me still because I don't want to get, like, yelled at by Twitch. Shoot, I gotta find, I know I emailed it to myself. Oh, here it is. Well, it's really tiny. Let me zoom. Well, I'll just do it. You can't really see it very well, but it says, forget Circleville, something. Do nothing to hurt Sheriff Radcliffe. If you come to Ohio, you El Sickos will pay. The Circleville writer. Yikes.